Did you hear me say?
I will now call this meeting of the Ways and Means Committee to order at 4:01 on Monday, May 11th, 2020. This meeting is being recorded and videotaped by the Ways and Means Committee and TV. If anyone else is doing so, please let me know at this time.
The meeting is also being recorded on WebEx, Councilor Wheeler.
Thank you, Clerk Scott. Clerk Scott, would you now please take the roll?
Certainly. Councilor Wheeler.
Here.
Councilor Forgy. Here. Councilor Bottomley.
Here.
Councilor Disorder.
Here.
Councilor Elmer.
Here.
Chairman Wheeler, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk Scott. Before we get going, I know Councilor Elmer was having a technical difficulty. Is that sorted out?
I had to put the Chromebook in the basement so I could talk on it. I'm using my Mac.
Fair enough.
Later, maybe someone can tell me how to shut it off.
Bad Chromebook. Bad Chromebook.
So the plan today is to vote recommendations on the capital and operating budgets for FY21 for the city of Greenfield. We're going to try to get through it all, and I think we can. We are going to mostly proceed in order, but we are going to start somewhat out of order because I requested, or rather invited, Jean Wall and Carol Collins here to speak on one of the items. For the most part, we have spent the past 5-6 meetings talking to all the department heads and had question upon question answered, but there was a little bit more that I wanted to talk about here. So I'll welcome Jean Wall, Chair of the Planning and Construction Committee, and Carol Collins, Director of Energy and Sustainability. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Counselor.
So I would invite everyone to turn to page, I guess it is 65 in your agenda packet, if you have that for today's meeting, which deals with the Fifth Avenue retaining wall capital item. And we'll give us a moment because the agenda is long. So this item is a $44,000 proposed expenditure to replace the retaining wall on Fisk Avenue, which is clearly deteriorating. And I invited Director Collins and Ms. Wall to speak about how it might work with other planned improvements at the site. And Director Collins sent us some plans from the Conway School of Landscape Design, which we may be able to share. I don't know. I haven't actually done that yet. But I'll just start off with my questions. So, Carol, do you think that replacing the retaining wall before other plans are in place or finalized? I mean, does this go along with your timeline, or do you think that everything that more on your end needs to be solidified before we should approve money for the retaining wall?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for inviting me to speak about this. And if I may just give a few minute kind of background, I also sit on the Planning and Construction Committee, and when Director Warner came to us with this planned replacement of the retaining wall, I was reminded of the Conway School's design, which I always loved. And sorry about that. It rings through my computer if it's anywhere in the vicinity. Sorry. So it seemed like a great opportunity to revisit that design, which I thought was absolutely beautiful and a great use for that space. And came across a grant through AARP, their Livable Communities Challenge, and this actually seemed like a perfect fit. So I started contacting different people, Director Twarog of the planning department, because he worked with the Conway School on the design, to try to get a sense of the cost. So this grant, it's a perfect fit. It serves their purposes of what they're looking to do, to create vibrant spaces that are able to be used by the seniors in the community. It also has a rain garden. It demonstrates innovative practices. So it's a fairly small grant, and it's for quickly implementable projects. So of course I haven't learned that nothing is quick in the municipal world, but I still try. And then Alan Dwarog was kind enough, I met with him as well, to run up a budget for us, and it turned out to be not such a small project. So I've been in the process. Anyway, the short of it is the wall in this proposed plan would still be in the same location where it is now. So it would be great to get that replaced, and I thought this would complement that project so that we could get the whole thing completed. But because of the cost and the grant limitation is roughly around $40,000. Oh, there it is. I'm trying to phase it. So I think we can still do the rain garden piece at the bottom of the bottom right of the design, or bottom right of the page. And the great news is that Wisty Rohrbacker's group, which they have a new name, We Garden, has graciously agreed to work with us on this and to provide their expertise and put in the plantings and do just a tremendous amount of work. So we have that great partnership established, and it would be great to move forward. So my plan currently is to try to scale back the project to within roughly a $40,000 ask, where we can still pursue pieces of this to complement the wall. But ideally, the wall getting replaced would happen, if not simultaneously, then beforehand, so that it doesn't disrupt any of the plantings or other items.
Okay. Great. Thank you for the overview of the project. I love the project. It's a really common sense solution to retain the parking while adding features. I think it's really important now of all times to concentrate on giving restaurants an opportunity to improve their outdoor seating and their environments as we think about lifting some of the stay-at-home orders. So I guess my just follow-up questions would be the handicap accessible ramp that I see on the design. Would that be added later or modified in some way to go around Fisk Avenue? Do you have any, has that been talked about?
That has been considered, and no matter what will be pursued, the accessibility would be maintained in whatever aspect that needs to happen. I am not positive, because currently where the parking lot, the proposed parking lot would end, is actually in the middle of the current parking lot. So it gets a little tricky to arrange that, but I believe we can try to add that feature in, and that would work best with the wall replacement to happen simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little tricky, but I've been working, like I said, with DPW, and they've been very helpful, and I think we can come up with something. Hopefully, I've got pricing, so we can do at least that piece.
Okay, Great. Jean, was there anything you wanted to add about this this project?
No, it's been a dream for me ever since I've moved to Greenfield and saw the Conway School of Design plan. And we've also talked about it on the parking commission. So, you know, we have enthusiastic support whenever it can happen.
Great. Thanks for that. Question from Councillor Forgy.
She's muted.
Oh,
Councillor Forgy, are you there?
Unmute.
Okay, I finally
Oh,
figured it out. Yeah, I did. So I'm a little bit of a newbie. I wonder if if Jean and Carol could just give me a very brief background piece of the overall plan. When was this to be implemented, and by what means?
You want me to speak to that?
I'm just not sure. Do you mean the design was actually done back in 2011?
Okay.
And do you mean implementing it currently if we were to be awarded?
Right. So the piece I'm hearing you say is that you've applied for a grant, and the grant is probably is if it happens for us, it'll bring us in about 40 grand to do this piece, and the retaining wall that we're being asked to vote on is another 44,000, but that's for that project as well.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
And the grant is actually not due until Friday, and I have a habit of, just getting into the deadline. So it's not in yet. Like
Okay,
I said,
but
there's been a lot of tweaking trying to get the budget down to where we can do something that's workable, and we would be notified of the award in July, and they do want to see it done fairly quickly. So that's part of the discussions that we've had with the group that would do the plantings and everyone else.
thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks. One more question for you, Director Collins. The rec department has on their 5-year capital plan some citywide site amenities, and some of them are, I think, suggested to be located here. Are you aware of those? Have you seen those?
Are those the there's like a checker table
Yeah.
or chess? Yes. Director Moore also came to the planning and construction committee, so that kind of helped fuel that also. Ideally, I had originally hoped to be able to put a bus shelter at the Main Street portion of the site, because that is a bus stop, to provide some protection against weather. I know the bench has been removed there, but the hope would be to put a nice, durable bench, and obviously replanting that whole area, making it much more welcoming and usable for recreation. So I've talked to everybody, but I have not spoken with Director Moore yet, but that is on the radar as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to make sure that all the people who need to are talking to one another. So,
Yeah, it's amazing. There's a lot of people, but it's everybody's great. So
okay. All right. Thank you, both of you, for signing on and speaking to this. I
Okay.
appreciate it. Oh, actually, it looks like we have a question from Councillor DeSorger.
sure.
Yes, I just, could you tell me how high that retaining wall is going to be at the highest point?
I believe it's going to match what it is now, and according to one of the emails I had from Alan, it's no higher than 4 feet, which I guess triggers needing a structural engineer. So it's below that in every point, at every point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further questions for Gene Wall or Carol Collins? All right.
Oh,
Seeing
thank you
none?
so much for taking us first and letting us go.
Yeah.
I assume that's where you're heading.
You don't want to stay for the next 3 hours?
I would love to. I do try to watch these, and God bless you all. Thank you very much for what you do. It's a tireless
Amen.
task. Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for all that you do.
thank you.
So we will now move back to the agenda as written. So if you give me a moment to, I think we're going to start on page, I want to say page 4. Let's see. Yes, so we'll start by deliberating on the general fund operating budget, and I want to let my subcommittee members know that I can't necessarily see if you have your hands up because I'm using the Chromebook and it doesn't give me the gallery view. So if I don't see your hand right away, just type a Q in the chat. And speaking of which, it looks like we have a couple people. Clerk Scott, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's all I wanted to check. Thank you, and I apologize for the interruption. Thank you.
Not at all. Councillor Forgy.
Councilor Wheeler, I have to recuse myself from voting on 2 particular articles in the general fund. One would be retirement funds, and the second would be insurance funds. As you know, I'm a retiree of the town of Greenfield, and I benefit from both retirement and insurance benefits. And I don't believe it would be legal, nor would it be in good faith to cast my vote on either one of those items. So I don't know how you're going to address this, but I cannot vote on those 2 items.
Thank you, Councillor Forgy. I appreciate your concern. The open meeting law, I believe, and I don't have it in front of me, excuse me, not open meeting law, the conflict of interest law does have a certain specificity to it, whereby if one's interest in a bottom line number is, I believe, under a certain percentage, then it does not actually constitute a conflict of interest. Clerk Scott, are you aware of the particular language on this one so that we might be able to look into it definitively?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am not aware of the specific language. However, I know in the past that other counselors have had conflict of interest in certain sections of the budget, one of which was insurance, and they simply recused themselves from that vote on the council floor, on the Ways and Means floor. But it is something I could look into, but I do not have that information offhand.
Thank you. Yes, if we could look into it for Wednesday's meeting, it might just inform how councilors vote. But for today, Councillor Forgy, you're certainly welcome to recuse yourself. I'm not sure if there is a way to recuse yourself on just one line item versus the entire general fund budget. And if Clerk Scott or anyone else has an idea there, I'd be happy to hear it. Otherwise, you may need to recuse yourself on the vote itself. But certainly that would not preclude you from participating in discussion of particular line items in the general fund budget, and it certainly wouldn't keep you from making amendments to any line items in the general fund budget.
I wonder, Councilor Wheeler, if instead of, I know the agenda shows us voting the general fund and the whole piece, the whole number. I wonder if we couldn't break that down just a little and just go by legislative and executive bottom line and public safety bottom line, and the way usually the numbers, the way it's presented, like by the mayor in her budget presentation, where she puts category. So I wonder if it would be okay if I could request that from my other counselors on Ways and Means, what their feelings were about this, because I would not like to recuse myself from the whole budget.
Nor would we wish you to either. So let's put that up for discussion. There's two ways we could do it. It could either be voting on every department by department, or we could do it in the manner that you see in the operating budget summary which is kind of legislative, executive, financial administration, operation support, etc. Which I think would be my sort of gut feeling on how to go, but I'm happy to hear what other counselors feel like. Anyone have a feeling either way there? Counselor DeSorger?
I think that's a very reasonable request to divide it like that. So I'm in favor of what you just suggested.
Okay. So in that case, I think we will, at this point, take, I guess, start with the legislative section. I'm going by the operating budget summary. And if in the course of this, counselors wish to divide it further by department, we can do so, but I'll start with the bigger buckets. So legislative, which is the city council, and it's a $73,995 bottom line. Is there any discussion, comments on legislative? Okay, so seeing none, I will move to give a positive recommendation to the mayor's legislative line items. Is there a second?
Second. 4G.
Second, Councilor Forgy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstain? The vote is unanimous. I'm happy to do a roll call vote on any where it's not clearly unanimous. Next, we'll move to the executive, which includes mayor, executive administration, and economic development and marketing. Their discussion on these departments. I will move to amend the mayor's salary and wages. I'm going to be specific here. I'll move to amend account 01001200200.5110 salary mayor from $89,000 to $88,825 to keep it in line with the provision in the code which requires that it be the lesser of either a 5% increase or the increase commensurate with all bargaining unit raises for the fiscal year.
I will
And
I will second that, Councilor Wheeler, for the purpose of discussion, if we could.
Yes, we will start discussion on this item. Would you like to speak? Yes, Clerk Scott.
Could you please repeat the amount that you are amending it to?
Yes, the amount is $88,825.
Thank you.
So we're discussing the mayor's salary. Any questions, comments? We don't really have.
Okay.
I guess I'll start unless anyone has their hand up. This is fairly straightforward in the code. You would have to change the ordinance in order to change the number, at least to go higher. We would, of course, have the option to go lower.
Councilor Wheeler.
Councilor Forgy.
Thank you. Well, playing the devil's advocate at this point, I would like to see that number stay where it is at the moment. And I would also like the Ways and Means and the council to consider the fact that mayoral salary originally in the term of the charter was set by the charter. And we know that there is a range within the charter that, well, it might be in the code. I'm sorry, I get a little mixed up. That says between $70,000 and $100,000. Having served as a mayor, I can honestly say that the position itself is a standalone position. It needs the dignity of a salary that the mayor accepts when he or she comes on board, that is not tied in any way, shape, or form to any bargaining units or any independent contracts. Too often in the past, we have seen this happen. It is a system that does not work in theory as well as in practice. So I would propose that we, because we're in a little bit of a conundrum this year, that we go ahead and we vote the salary at $89,000. To me, and my way of thinking, that salary should stay in place for the 4 years that the mayor serves in office. And again, the mayor's salary should not be impacted by the highest or the lowest person paid in the town of Greenfield, or what the percentage is, that to me seems to be an attempt to control the salary of the mayor by parties that by charter cannot control the mayor, and by the fact that the mayor is the person responsible for the administrative and executive side of office, and the voters have determined that. And so he or she are responsible only to the voters and not to what anybody else says is their idea of what the mayor should be getting or what salary line item it should be tied to. It's a unique, unusual position, and I would not like to see the integrity of the office jeopardized by tying it back to labor contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forgy. This is indeed a important issue, and I am not in any way against increasing mayoral compensation. We have a question from Councillor Elmer.
With apologies, but I hate going through this. What page on the agenda are we talking about?
That's a good question.
It's in the mayor's budget book.
Yeah, I would actually go refer to the mayor's budget book on page 61.
I'll dig that out. Thank you.
Yes. So the charter leaves it to the council to set the mayor's salary. I have it on my, if the charter review committee is to convene, I have it on my list of items for discussion. Personally, I would be inclined to do like some other cities do and have a committee to refer this particular item to. I've spoken one-on-one with certain people. Certain people think that's kind of a frivolous use of a committee to just deal with one item. But certainly it's worth talking about whether it's a particularly high bar to cross to be able to give the mayor of Greenfield a salary at any time. Because I think over the course of the past 15 plus years that we've been a city, we haven't seen large increases. That said, the city of Greenfield, as of the council's decision to raise the base salary to $85,000, that's considerably more than East Hampton or North Adams, which are what I would consider the two most similar communities around here. So overall, I think it's really a conversation worth having. I'm not sure that this is the place to have it. We can certainly leave the number at 89,000, but being that the ordinance exists, believe the mayor would be able to be paid $89,000. I believe it would leave an awkward place where, frankly, the city would have to choose to reduce that item anyway, or be compelled to enforce the code. Any other discussion from committee members?
So
Councilor Elmer?
Yeah, how much money are we talking about?
$175.
May I suggest that we've spent more time on this than it's worth?
Yes, you certainly may. That said, would anyone else like to speak to the item? before we vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? The motion passes unanimously. So that was the vote to adjust the mayor's salary. And for the purposes of the minutes, I will point out that the total wages line item has now gone from 173,474 to 173,299, and the total mayor bottom line has now gone from 185,331 to 185,156, according to my math. And the total executive, which is what we'll be voting on next, I'm going to calculate.
Get a pen.
So the total executive bottom line is now $329,328. Any further discussion on the executive branch budget? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Now we will move on to financial administration, which includes the reserve fund, accounting, the city audit, the assessors, and the treasurer collector. And I am actually on page 4 of our agenda, I believe. Let me see, is that correct? But of course, you could also be on the budget. Yeah, thank you, Clerk Scott. All right, questions or comments, discussion around finance? All right. Seeing none, we will vote I'll move to make a positive recommendation for financial administration as proposed. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? I know I asked for discussion more than once on these things. Got to be sure. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. I will move down to operations support, which includes legal, HR, and IT. Any discussion on any of these three? Okay, seeing none, I'll move a positive recommendation on operations support for the proposed $974,963. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Councilor Elmer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. I'm gonna do this slightly more official. I'll move positive recommendation on licensing and registration, which includes city clerk, elections, board of registrars, and the licensing commission. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second,
Second, Councilor Forgy. Discussion.
yes,
Councilor
I have discussion. Thank you.
Forgy.
I wanted, I guess this kind of slipped away from me when we were going through the deliberations. So this is in regard to the city clerk. The city clerk is our appointment. It's the council's appointment. And I wanted to ask Clerk Scott right at the moment what her salary is and when was the last time she received a pay raise?
So my salary at the moment, and apologies for not knowing exactly what my salary is, but it's $62,000 and change. The last time I received a pay raise was last July, when I signed a new contract with the then Mayor Martin. I did receive a small increase in my salary at that time. And I think that that answers your question. Is that correct?
That's fine, but were you ever held back? I mean, was there ever a year where you did not receive a pay increase?
Since I have been clerk, no. I've only been
Okay.
clerk for 2 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
You're welcome.
Councilor Mueller.
Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Clerk Scott. Any further discussion? Anyone who's been to the clerk's office knows they are busy day and night, and I'm sure they're just busy in a different way now. And certainly one person has been in the office every day, which is probably even more overwhelming, having all the phones to yourself. So we appreciate what they do, that's for sure. Any further discussion on any of these items?
No.
Councilor DeSorger?
I know we're not allowed to make any increases. I just wanted to point out, as we had in discussion, that there were 2 people that did not receive cost of living increase. And one of them was the clerk, and the other was, I believe, the director of planning. That was just a comment.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. I'll move a positive recommendation for total land use and development budget of $113,896. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second.
Councilor Elmer. Any discussion?
Otis,
Councilor DeSorger.
Mueller, excuse me.
Okay.
What, I'm not working off of the agenda because that was, so what line item are you on?
All right, let me try to find it in the budget book. One moment.
Councilor Wheeler,
Yes.
Commission is on page 82 of the budget book, and it is on page 6 of the Ways and Means packet agenda. That is the first line on land use and development.
Thank you, Clerk Scott. If you want to be looking at what I am looking at, I'm going through these based on the summary, because it gives us a bigger bucket to work with. And that's on page, we'd be on page 47 of the budget book. So this is essentially the planning department with some small stipends for the planning board, the conservation commission, zoning board of appeals. Any discussion on this department? I'm just giving everyone time to make sure we're all on the same page here. All right, any further discussion on planning? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Moving down the page to other general government, which includes central services, central maintenance, and the energy department. I will move a positive recommendation on other general government. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Councilor Bottomley. Is there discussion? So central maintenance here is still separated out. I don't know if next year it may be within the DPW budget. But other than that, I don't have any amendments to make here. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move down the page to public safety, which includes police, parking, dispatch, fire, building inspector, plumbing and water inspectors, emergency management, and a couple of other smaller items. So I will move a positive recommendation for the mayor's recommended amount of $7,290,623. Is there a second?
4G.
Second, Councilor Forgy. Is there a discussion? All right. I don't have any amendments to make here either. I'm seeing people shaking their heads. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. So we move to Greenfield Public Schools. I'll make a positive recommendation for the total education amount of $20,898,965. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilor DeSorger. Discussion. In case anyone doesn't know, we're in the unfortunate position of the school committee having a meeting at the same time as our annual budget meeting this Wednesday. So Amy Prietti and the superintendent are going to be busy, but I think we may try to accommodate them towards the beginning of the meeting if we can, so that they can do both. That's I don't have any amendments to make to the school's budget. Anyone else? Councilor Elmer.
I just want to say that my understanding is that the school department is putting together a new budget, and we're sort of in the same position with this large expenditure that we are with the total budget, which is we really don't know where we're going to be at the end of the pandemic or in the middle of the pandemic, wherever we're going to be in 2021. So to some extent, we're endorsing their picture of the situation as it is, and we're just going to have to deal with the changes as they come up. They could be dramatic, they could be minor, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we're in this weird position as a city council.
Yes, we certainly are. And just to reiterate what could happen from here, if the city were short on certain departments, then either cuts would have to be made mid-year, or a supplemental budget request would come in from the mayor's office. The schools are generally have to make do with the amount that is approved, and so they are presumably already in discussions about how they would fund things going forward. In fact, I know they are. It's a difficult situation, but I support the mayor's proposed amount, and I hope that the school committee and the superintendent are able to make it work in these trying times. Any further discussion on schools? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. We will move down the page to the Department of Public Works, which also includes the snow and ice removal budget. So I'll move a positive recommendation for the total public works amount of $2,484,800. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilor Bottomley. Any discussion on DPW? Okay. Seeing none. DPW will have a lot of capital budgets for us to discuss. But for now, this is a good budget. I hope they can make it work. I think, do we have a question from, the city council account, which I don't know if, is that you, Clerk Scott?
That is me. Was this a motion for public works, total public works, $2,484,800?
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
And it
Thank
does
you.
not.
Just clarifying.
Yes, and thank you for jumping in. It does not include the other DPW related expenses, which we will vote on separately since they're separated out. Got up, and I don't want.
You're frozen. We're all frozen.
Although, of course, he may be in the room.
Chairman, you were frozen for a moment. Could you restate if you had a question, please?
I'm sorry, who had the question?
You were frozen for a moment. This is Kathy Scott. I was wondering if you had a question that you stated. I couldn't hear it.
Thank you. No, I was really just killing time until Councilor Elmer sat down because I didn't want to take a vote without all the members here. So it was a good time for the video to freeze. So, any further discussion on DPW? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. I'll move a positive recommendation on other DPW-related expenses in the amount of $497,150. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor DeSorger. Discussion. This is street cleaning, trash disposal, and cemeteries. Of course, there's a huge increase in trash disposal, but we've been over it and there appears to be nothing we can do at this time. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor raise your hand. Opposed, abstain, it passes unanimously. Moving to human services. I'll move a positive recommendation of total human services, $907,151. Is there a second? Feel free to raise your hand if you're seconding.
I'll second.
From Councilor Elmer is the fastest here. So this is Health Inspector, Council on Aging, Veteran Services, and a number of small boards and commissions. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Seeing 5 hands. Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. We will move down the page to culture and recreation. I'll move a positive recommendation for total culture and recreation of $870,583. Is there a second? Second from Councilor Forgy. Is there discussion? This is Library, Recreation, Historical Commission. All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Okay, we're moving down to debt service. Total debt service, $1,937,756. I move a positive recommendation. Is there a second?
Elmer, second.
Councilor DeSorger, second. Is there discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. I like the hands. It's easy. Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. Now we will now move on to miscellaneous, which includes FERCOG assessments, contributory retirement, workers' comp, unemployment, employee health insurance, employee life insurance, Medicare, and liability insurance. I'll move a positive recommendation of $14,584,097. Is there a second?
Elmer,
Second by Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? Councilor Forgy and then DeSorger.
So at this time, Council Wheeler, I'd like to formally recuse myself because I do get a financial benefit from both the retirement line item and the insurance line item.
Thank you, Councilor Forgy. The clerk will note that in the minutes, please. Councilor DeSorger.
I'm in favor of this, but where we have all the department heads listening, or many of them listening, this is something that's going up astronomically. And at some point, we all departments may have to be looking at how that's funded. So that was just my comment. That is something that is going up annually. It's up 10.4% this year.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. That's certainly a good point. The increases in retirement and health insurance do end up being a huge percentage of our yearly increases. And I know that this is something that I talk to Director Gilman about regularly and others inside City Hall. And the retirement issue really may be somewhat more of a state issue, and the health insurance is certainly somewhat of a national issue, although I do think that at some point we may need to look into ways to negotiate the amount of the percentage that the city contributes to employee health insurance, which remains more generous than it does in the private sector, which is a good thing. But it may be a conversation that has to happen. But when I look at that, I also think about the need for new growth to support these continuing budget increases. Any further discussion on miscellaneous insurance, etc.? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. We have 4 positive, opposed, abstain. The motion passes with 4 positive and I believe 1 abstention. So we will now move to the total operating number. And for this, I'm gonna try to move back to the agenda and actually read the order. Let's see. And give me one moment as I do some math. Okay. So I just had to do the calculation based on the amendment that was made. I think to be safe, I'll move again to amend this order. So I'm now looking at the agenda, page 3, an order to appropriate $53,879,617 for the FY 2021 general fund budget. Ordered that the sum of $53,879,617, which in the full amount necessary for the fiscal year 2021 general fund budget, July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, be appropriated for the purposes stated. To meet said appropriation, $400,000 will be transferred from the parking meter receipts reserve, and $53,479,617 will be raised and appropriated. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from thank you. Second from Councilor Forgy. I'll now move to amend that the sum of $53,879,617 be struck and replaced by the amount $53,879,442.
Second.
And that be, thank you. Second, I'm sorry, who seconded?
Okay.
Councilor DeSorger. And that motion was to replace the amount 3 times in the order. Any discussion on final positive recommendation for, any discussion on the amendment? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Any opposed? Abstain? The amendment passes unanimously. So now we move back to discussion of the final general fund operating budget with the amount of $53,879,442. Any further discussion? Councilor DeSorger.
I checked your math and it came out right. That's my
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Appreciate it. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. I'm seeing 5 hands. All those opposed? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
We will now scroll on. Could I have a volunteer to read the order on page 11 of our agenda? While I give my voice a rest. Also give us time to find where we are.
Councilman Wheeler,
Yes.
are you talking about the language that starts City Council upon recommendation of Mayor Weidergardner an order F21 water enterprise appropriations, that thing?
Yes, please.
I'll read it if you want.
Thank you. I appreciate the break.
Okay. The City Council, upon recommendation of Mayor Weidergardner, orders an order FY21 water enterprise appropriation $1,430,399. Ordered that the sum of $1,430,399 be appropriated for the FY21 Water Enterprise Fund, and that $317,995 be included in appropriation from the General Fund for Water Enterprise indirect costs to be allocated to the Water Enterprise Fund for funding, and that $1,430,399 be raised from water use rate receipts the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Councilor Elmer. I will second that. So seconded by Councilor Wheeler and moved by Councilor Elmer. Is there discussion on the Water Enterprise Fund? And we do have the Water Enterprise Fund budget attached, which we did go over in a prior meeting. So, unless there's further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, abstain. Matter passes unanimously. Councilor Elmer, would you be so kind as to read the next one as well on sewer?
Sure. Okay. Upon recommendation of Mayor Weidergardner, ordered that the sum of $2,280,353 be appropriated for the FY21 Sewer Enterprise Fund, and that $394,511 be included in appropriation from the General Fund for Sewer Indirect Costs to be allocated to the Sewer Enterprise Fund for funding, and that $2,280,353 be raised from sewer user rate receipts for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second, 4G.
Okay, moved by Counselor Elmer, seconded by Counselor Forgy. Is there discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, abstain. The matter passes unanimously. Moving on to page 17. I'll take a crack at this one. Ordered that the sum of $1,529,684 be appropriated for the FY21 GSET Enterprise Fund, and that $109,470 be included in appropriation from the general fund for GSET Enterprise indirect costs to be allocated to the GSET Enterprise Fund for funding, and that $1,529,684 be raised from GSET user rate receipts for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councillor DeSorger. Is there discussion? All right. Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. I move that, and now we're on page 19. I move that the City Council, Greenfield City Council, appropriate the sum of $450,000 from Water Enterprise retained earnings to the FY20 Water Enterprise operating budget. Is there a second?
Second, 4G.
Is there discussion? You'll see the rationale at the bottom of the page that due to COVID-19, the city is anticipating potential water and sewer decrease in revenue, and this vote will ensure there's not a deficit. All right. Unless there's further discussion, and I see none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Moving to page 20, I move that the Greenfield City Council appropriate the sum of $220,000 from sewer enterprise retained earnings to the FY20 sewer enterprise operating budget. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? And this is just like the matter we just voted on, same rationale, anticipated decrease in revenues, and this vote will reduce the possible deficit. All those in favor, say, raise your hand. All those opposed, abstain, passes unanimously. Now we move to page 21. I move that the Greenfield City Council authorize the following revolving fund spending limits in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, E1.5 for the fiscal year 2021. Receipts received but not expended in fiscal year 2021 shall be carried over to fiscal year 2021 unless otherwise indicated in the attached. No further appropriation shall be made in excess of the balance of the fund, nor shall total expenditures for the fiscal year exceed the annual spending limit as noted. The aggregate amount of all revolving fund spending limits is not to exceed $489,000. Is there a second? Second, Councillor DeSorger. Discussion. I wonder if there's a typo here, because this item asks us to, let's see, it says, received but not expended in fiscal year 2021 shall be carried over to fiscal year 2021. So do we have, yeah, Councilor Elmer?
That does look like a typo, and I was going to move that we amend the second number to 2022.
Yes, I'll second that. Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amending the second number to fiscal year 2022, raise your hand. All right, opposed? Passes unanimously. So for the record, that sentence now reads, receipts received but not expended in fiscal year 2021 shall be carried over to fiscal year 2022 unless otherwise indicated in the attached. Any further discussion? And you'll see the revolving account spending limits on the following page. And we did discuss them at one of our meetings. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. All right, there's
Sorry.
a little delay, opposed, abstain, passes unanimously. Okay, so now we move into capital, which may have more discussion. We shall see. I am scrolling down in the agenda to the capital orders. And I'm going to start on page 42 of the agenda. I move that the sum of $230,000 be appropriated from the General Stabilization Fund to pay off an existing fire department vehicle lease for engine number 2. Is there a second? Second from Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? So this would come from the General Stabilization Fund. The balance at the time that this was written in the General Stabilization was $1,902,288.36. 2/3 vote is required to appropriate from stabilization, but a 2/3 vote is also required on all capital items. So that doesn't really change anything. We talked about the need for these trucks when we had Chief Strand on. The only thing that's changed is, we continue to be concerned about the potential need for stabilization depending on what happens with the pandemic. But I consider the amount healthy enough to make this appropriation, at least from my standpoint. Any further discussion before we vote? Councilor DeSorger.
No, just the comment that I had previously made that we have put this off for too many years, and the repairs are extraordinary. So I think this is a very wise thing to be making these moves.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, abstain, passes unanimously. Turning the page, I move that the sum of $75,000 be transferred from 1627 bond premiums to purchase a brush truck. Is there a second?
Second, DeSorger.
Is there discussion? This falls in line with what we just voted on. This brush truck has been requested year after year, and I believe there'll be maintenance savings in finally replacing it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Could I ask for a volunteer to read this one? Just give me another break. We're on page 44 of the agenda.
I can read that.
Thank you, Councilor Bottomley.
I move that it be ordered the sum of $350,000 be appropriated to purchase the fire department vehicle engine, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $350,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of these projects.
Second, is there discussion? Okay. Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstained? Matter passes unanimously. We are almost through the fire engine. I actually believe there's another fire truck coming up, but it's taken out of order for some reason. So I'll read this one. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $10 million be appropriated for the construction of a new fire station. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $10 million pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of this project. And further, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes hereunder, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project costs, and the amount authorized to be borrowed for the project shall be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? I'm just glad I don't have to write these orders. All right, so this is the biggest item before us. We've certainly discussed it already. That said, it may merit further discussion. For this to move forward, or rather, it's necessary for this to move forward in order for the library project to move forward. I think everyone knows that. The building committee has been meeting. I don't believe they've identified a temporary location for this fire station yet, but I believe they have it narrowed down. I believe a designer has been hired for the permanent fire station. I don't really have much to add. Councilor Elmer?
I just want to say that there was a lot of confusion in the town, at least as expressed on Facebook. Were people asking, what about the fire station? Well, how come we're doing the library? And what about the fire station? Well, here's the answer. This is the fire station. This is a lot of money. We're going to borrow it. We're going to build a fire station. And I hope that puts a lot of anxiety to rest. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Councilor Elmer. And you are right. We are not the first community in Massachusetts to build a fire station. It will happen. We have a lot of smart people on it. Any further discussion of the fire station? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Construction of a new fire station passes unanimously. Moving down the page. Now, where are we now?
We got a thumbs up from the mayor.
That was a big one. Just everyone know that that even though we're not discussing all of these items this afternoon, it's only because we've been discussing for hours and hours and hours over the past 5 weeks. So if anyone wishes, the meetings are all posted on GCTV. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $76,000 be appropriated to purchase security upgrades for 14 Court Square, 20 Sanderson Street, Energy Park, and waste and water pumping stations. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $76,000 pursuant to MGL Chapter 44 or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? This, again, is a relatively modest appropriation to address some security shortcomings. I think we get a good deal on a lot of these things because we really stretch the IT department as far as it will go. Oh, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered the sum of $150,000 be appropriated to purchase a police mobile command post. And to meet said appropriation, $90,000 be transferred from Fund 2601 FEMA reimbursement, and the balance of $60,000 to borrow. The treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $60,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Ford. Their discussion. I'm seeing a shaking of the head, and this will just about zero out the FEMA reimbursement fund balance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I will take a volunteer to read the item on the next page, page 56. Any volunteer? All right. Who this time? Yes. All right. Councilor Bottom.
All right. I move that it be ordered the sum of 20,000 be appropriated to purchase a police mobile message board, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of 20,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects.
Second. Second by Wheeler. Is there discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Police mobile message board passes unanimously. Councilor Palmer, would you mind reading the Sanderson Street redesign on page
Sure.
59?
Let me add that there's a typo in the first line. It should say of, not just F. But I'll read it as if it were correct. I move that the sum of $115,000 be appropriated for the design and construction of Sanderson Street, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $115,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, or expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects.
Second by Councilor Wheeler. Is there discussion? So just to remind everyone, this is phase one of a big project, around $1 million project, but it's an important one, and it's been kind of many years in the waiting. And it would address a number of things, including the sewer capacity as well as the condition of the street. Any further discussion on Sanderson Street design and reconstruction? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I'll do this one. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $48,000 be appropriated for traffic safety improvements, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $48,000 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second? Second, Councilor Forgy. Is there a discussion? All right. Seeing none, I will rather pettily request that an item like this be sent to the Parking and Traffic Commission for recommendation. And as chair of the Capital Improvements Committee, I will make sure that we have time to do it and that the request gets there next year. I kind of think that committee offers a level of expertise that should be taken advantage of. But that said, these are safety improvements, and I will support them. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Bottomly, would you be so kind as to read the sidewalk replacement order on page 61?
Yes, I move that it be ordered, the sum of 40,000 be appropriated for the sidewalk replacement program, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of 40,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of these projects.
Second from Councillor Wheeler. Is there discussion? Councillor DeSorger.
I'm going to be voting in favor of this $40,000. But I'm disappointed as someone who walks and as someone who is a member of Disability Access. I've had people come to me that have fallen and hurt themselves. Just listing Congress Street as one that I recall, and they are not going to be done. There won't be enough to have those done, and there's a part of me that thinks we're shooting ourselves in the foot by not doing that. We discussed this with Director Warner when he came to Disability Access, and I think this is what it is for this year, but more money has to be put into the sidewalks because people they're falling. Luckily, they were very good people. They came and reported that they didn't want anyone else to fall.
Thank you, Councillor DeSorger. We have a question from Councillor Forgy.
I just need a little bit of clarification on the process with capital projects. Is it within the purview of this subcommittee to make a different recommendation on those capital items? And if we are so inclined to do that, does it have to be taken from another capital line item, or can we just say to the mayor, we'd really like you to put another 10 grand in this line item?
Unfortunately, we do not have the capacity to raise any of the proposed capital expenditures. It's not something that we're allowed to do. We may only cut or approve or deny. That said, I want to first of all just say that I completely agree with what Councillor DeSorger said, and that this is a safety issue, and that even if we were, now I walk everywhere, but even if we were just thinking from a fiscal standpoint, one suit from someone who might get injured is probably higher than the amount that we may appropriate this year. So I agree that it would be in the city's best interest to really strongly reconsider the amounts that are appropriated. Speaking from we have a comment from Councillor Elmer, and I'll get to let you speak in just a moment. I just wanted to address the process generally around sidewalks is that $100,000 is normally put forward every year to the Capital Improvements Committee, who begins discussing it in November. That has been the accepted amount for a few years. I think that amount should be looked at as to whether or not it's appropriate in light of how much we spend on roads. That it may be better invested in sidewalks, and also that it really should not be cut unless it really has to. Councilor Allen?
Well, I just wanted to point out that other municipalities treat sidewalks differently. When I lived in Brooklyn, if your sidewalk, got pushed up by a tree root, it was the owner's the house owner's responsibility to fix it, and the city would enforce that, and they'd come and make you do it. So, as a city, Greenfield could consider another way to deal with the sidewalks, but I don't know if that would be popular or really unpopular. So just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know in Havana, Cuba, I saw people outside my Airbnb once just pouring their own concrete, because I don't think it would have been poured otherwise. But that said, I think we're lucky to have a city that's willing to maintain the sidewalks. What I would say is that the city does have a capacity to deal with this within the budget, and that is almost $700,000 will be coming to it from Chapter 90 funds from the state. So those $698,000 will all go, according to past practice, will all go to fixing roads. It would be certainly my recommendation that the city reconsider that practice and consider putting just a few tens of thousands of dollars towards sidewalks, because the safety improvements there might be more considerable than what they are on roads. But that's not for this committee to decide. It's a bigger issue. Any further discussion on this from council? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of the $40,000 for the sidewalk replacement program, raise your hand. All those opposed, abstain, passes unanimous. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $15,000 be appropriated to replace guardrail. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $15,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Distorger. Is there discussion? This is another item that comes to the Capital Committee and Ways and Means every year. The normal amount that's proposed is $30,000, and that replaces a section of guardrail every year. Obviously, some years that number gets denied entirely, or other years it gets cut. It's depending upon the state of the city. Any further discussion on guardrails? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Councilor Elmer, would you be so kind as to read the order on page 63, road treatment truck?
Yes, I will. I move that the sum of $211,000 be appropriated to purchase a road treatment truck, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $211,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, or expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects.
Second.
Okay, second from Councilor Forgy. Is there discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of the road treatment truck, raise your hand. Any opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Councilor Bottomley, would you be so kind as to read on page 64?
Yep. I move that it be ordered the sum of 75,000 be appropriated to purchase a mini excavator, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of 75,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of these projects.
Was that a second in the background?
So, sorry about that.
All right. I guess officially I will second that. Is there discussion? What these meetings are missing, these pets. So this essentially replaces a backhoe with a mini excavator at obviously a lower cost. I think it's a downsizing to some degree, and it can be used in multiple ways. So I support it. Is there any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $44,000 be appropriated to replace the Fisk Avenue parking lot retaining wall, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $44,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce this within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Elmer.
Second from Councilor Elmer. Is there discussion? Councilor DeSorger.
I see that Director Warner is still on the line, and this is about the material and the cost. Because could you go into that a little bit? Because that seemed like a high price to me. There's nothing that's over 4 feet. Obviously, I've looked at it, and it needs to be, it needs to be done. And I agree with the design of, it's a great design that they've come up with. The 44,000 figure appeared a little high, but maybe you could just, if that were possible, Councilor Wheeler, to speak.
Thank you for the question, Councilor DeSorger. So, Director Warner, are you on the line and prepared to answer Councilor's question about the retaining wall?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
We can, thanks.
So the length of the wall, I forget the exact length. It's quite a run from the edge of Main Street all the way to the back of the lot. 4 feet is just what we can go the maximum on the grade, but there'll be another layer of block on the bottom below grade, or potentially more than one layer of large block below the surface in order for frost protection and whatnot. So technically the wall could end up being 8-10 feet depending on the way the plan works out. 8 to 10 feet high, but it could be buried, most of it, is what I'm getting at.
Oh,
Okay. Any follow-up there, Councilor DeSorger?
What kind of block is underneath?
Actually, it's probably just crushed stone years ago when they did timbers. So I'm not sure what they had in there for a base. I do know that the area is pretty, the soils are pretty much clay underneath, but I'm guessing there's probably crushed stone under the existing timbers. And naturally, we'd have to pour a concrete base or use a larger rock underneath the new wall going in order to give it a footing.
Any sense of how long the process might take?
The other thing we got to look into is you got light poles there that sit in, I guess, in the tree belt area of that between the upper road and the retaining wall. I'm not sure how long them pylons are. We may have to hold them or have them held as we work by them. And again, it's all weather dependent when we go in there. You're talking clay soils. And if we do the work, it all depends on other emergency work and whatnot, how long that job would take. But I do believe the quote has the stairs incorporated also. There's a set of stairs that enter the parking lot that are starting to deteriorate. It probably makes sense to do them now as opposed to later.
Thank you, Director. Is there a question from Councilor Forgy?
I wondered, Director Warner, if you said that, okay, the way you termed things was that this was going to be a DPW project. Is there a reason why it wouldn't be?
Well, I would say how the capital turned out for the sidewalk work, the 40,000. I believe the sidewalk work would be turned back to the highway department for that sum of money. We probably wouldn't get a lot of footage, so to speak, if we contracted the sidewalks out. So in order to get that done this summer, we may have to contract the wall out as we work on the sidewalk issues that we've talked about.
Follow up from Councilor Forgy?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sort of on a cusp here of this project. I have to say that hearing that there is the pursuit of a grant to sort of open this up and that this is a companion piece to that has sort of pushed me a little bit towards saying yes on this project. Not because it's not worthy of it, but because timing, as they say, is everything. And again, in this environment, I'm not sure how all that everything is going to play out. I can only say if it's any way possible for DPW to do this, I would really encourage that.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions for Director Warner while we have him? All right, thank you, Director. Any further discussion on the retaining wall? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? The matter is 3 positive, 2 negative, and 0 abstentions. So it's a split positive recommendation. Thank you, councilors. And we're scrolling through here. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $82,000 be appropriated to replace Four Corners playground equipment and include some ACES playground components. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $82,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor DeSorger. Is there a discussion? Councilor DeSorger.
This was something I meant to ask before when we had the discussion. Will there be the removal of any of the equipment that's already there at that school? And if so?
That's a very good question. My recollection of this project is that there will, that much of it is deteriorated and anything that's unsafe or deteriorated would be removed. But if there's anyone on the line, if the superintendent is on the line and is hearing this, I would invite her to speak. Superintendent Harper, are you there? And
Councilor Wheeler, I could try to unmute her microphone. She may be having trouble. I don't know. Would you like me to do that?
sure, we'll give her the chance to respond if she can. Thank you, Clerk Scott.
You're welcome. So I have unmuted Superintendent Harper's microphone.
Okay, we'll see if she's there. Like I said, my recollection certainly was that most or all of the old equipment would be replaced. But so Superintendent Harper, if you're there, oh, actually, we have Director Warner on the line still. And Director Warner, can you speak to this?
Yes, if my memory serves right, about 4 years ago, we went in and expanded, 5 years ago, maybe we expanded that playground and installed new equipment, but the original equipment remained. So that makes it very old. So if my memory serves me right, we're going to go in and demo some of the older equipment. And if my memory serves me right, it's going to be a little bit larger than what exists now, but not a lot as far as square footage.
Thank you, Director. Councilor Forgy?
Yeah, it says playground and ACES equipment. I don't really remember an in-depth conversation on this particular item, but what does ACES mean, equipment? Does anybody know?
That's a very good question.
Okay.
I looked that up, and now I can't tell you what the stand for, but I believe that special needs and children with autism, and I remember that the types of swings that they had were more comforting for a child with that special need, but the actual 4 letters are escaping me.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, and I don't remember, but I believe Councilor DeSorger is correct. I do remember the piece around the special needs was kind of what convinced me on this one. I wasn't quite sure up until I heard that piece. Any further discussion around the playground equipment?
Councilor Wheeler, can I jump in for a second? It's Chief Strand.
Oh, yes, please, Chief.
I'm on the phone with the Recreation Department, Christy Moore, and she says that that's in fact what it's for, is for children with disabilities.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. There are, in fact, advantages to this strange video conferencing world that we live in. Okay, so any further discussion on the Four Corners Playground with ACES equipment? Seeing none. Oh, Councilor Elmer?
Wheeler?
Yes.
It's Councilor Elmer here. Counselor Disorder went out and took a bunch of pictures that have been posted, and it was it's striking the difference in quality in some of the equipment in the different schools, and I wouldn't begrudge any school some new equipment, especially if they needed it. But the Newton Street School is really crying for some tender love and care from the city, and I hope that spending money for the new equipment at Four Corners doesn't mean that we don't fix up what's broken and needs repair at Newton Street School.
Thank you, Councillor Elmer. I concur completely. It's a very good point. That said, any final discussion on the playground equipment?
Councilor Director Warner had his hand up.
No? Director
Yeah,
Warner?
yes, just for the comment on fixing up the other equipment. We get, Director Moore inspects all the playgrounds, gives us a list. I do believe there's a list forthcoming, and I think there's some stuff at Newton Street School is in that list that we will be repairing as time goes here.
Thank you, Director. And of course, we do have multiple capital projects that address other aspects of the Newton School that we will get to. All right. So, unless there's further discussion, we'll now vote on Four Corners playground equipment. All those in favor, raise your hand. Actually, I can't see everyone, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstain, passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $203,000 be appropriated to pave the parking lots for Newton and Federal Street School and construct a walkway at North Parish School. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $203,000 pursuant to Master Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used within appropriation.
Probably
The mayor
in.
is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the purpose of the
I
project.
would take a
Is there a
glass of
second?
wine, please.
I'll second Elmer.
Second from Councillor Elmer. Is there discussion on the paving projects? Yeah. Councillor Disorder.
So I see that all three of those are together, and I understand if I understood what Director Warner said about that they'd have to have somebody else do the paving. However, that sidewalk was going to be in-house at the North Parish School, the walkway, that little walkway that's $20,500. I personally am just in favor of the, I looked at them, I'm only in favor of the paving of the Newton School. And I think the $20,000 for that walkway is, I know that Director Warner explained that, but there are walkways already at the Newton School that are a terrible trip hazard. They ran out of money after steps. So now we would be building a new walkway, and there are safety issues with that. So I'm not sure that I can amend that to split that out, but that's where I am with that. Is that possible, Councilor Wheeler?
Yes. Councilor DeSorger, that's possible. I can give you the amounts if you would like to make that amendment as a motion. The walkway was 20,500. The Newton School paving was 82,500. And then the Federal Street School paving was 100,000. This is according to Mayor's budget, page 169. Did that help you?
Yeah, so I would make an amendment to that we spend 82,500 for the paving of the Newton School.
I will second that.
Seconded from Councilor Forgy. All right, discussion on the amendment. I will, Councilor Elmer, I'll let you.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand it. We're taking the money away from one project and spending that money on another?
No, so to clarify, I believe the intent of Councilor DeSorger's amendment, it would be to remove the Federal Street paving and the North Parish walkway from this capital item. And so it would be only to pave the parking lot at Newton School.
Thank you.
Councilor Forgy?
Yeah. I had hoped that as part of this piece with the schools, the capital on the schools, that we would all take a look at the photos that that some of our counselors have put up that actually show us with a little bit more clarity what's going on. I can see where in my uneducated opinion, the parking paving for Federal Street is not as desperate as the paving for Newton Street School. I can also see at Newton Street that there are some other projects there that are in desperate need of happening. And so I don't, again, guidance here. We can vote partial or we can take away, but we can't recommend or give money to where we'd like to do it. We can only hope that the mayor wants to do that. Right? Is that correct?
That is correct, Councilor.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
To speak to the first part of your comment, Clerk Scott, would it be possible to bring up some of the photos that Councilor DeSorger took, which were posted to the Google Drive, the shared council drive?
I can do that. Can you tell me one more time what shared photographs I'm looking for, please?
Yes,
came out
I'm
today.
looking here and I'll try to let you know in just a moment. So it would be, I believe, within the folder called first FY21 budget information, and then photos of schools capital budget projects. And then I would recommend that we start with the Federal Street School. And I don't know which ones, so perhaps we would have to kind of scroll through.
Okay, I'm going to share what I have now, and you can let me know if that's what you want to see or not.
Thank you. I'll give it a moment to load. Okay. So we're gonna, I'd ask you to scroll until we get to a photo of the pavement of the parking lot.
That's it.
Okay, so there's some visible cracking. I think we could probably scroll to the next. You can see the condition. There's some frost heaves in visible. Decent shape otherwise.
Hold on. Oh,
And that's on the pull up, closer to the school, more cracking.
Are we looking at Federal Street?
We are looking at
Yeah.
Federal Street, correct. Well, you can see a couple fairly significant potholes in the middle there. More cracking around it.
May I make,
Yes, do you have a comment, Councilor DeSorger?
that was not, that pothole was
Yes.
not enormous, just so you
Okay.
know.
Thank you. Hard to tell from the pictures, and I
Yeah,
did.
mean,
Um,
I'm just telling you, I was there for quite a while.
yes.
Councilor Wheeler?
Yes, Councilor Elmer.
It might help if Councilor DeSorger narrated these pictures and told us where they are and why she took them.
Yeah, Councilor DeSorger, you have any comments about these Federal Street School pictures?
Well, I started by looking at the fencing to see, I always do that. Like, I always go to whatever it is, and there was no way that you can't make copies now and bring them to a meeting. So I started looking at all the different fences because it wasn't delineated where we were doing this. So I started with that, and there were 2 paving projects, which in my mind were like the night and the day. So that's the Federal Street parking lot. There was a few cracks where people would go in and out, and there was one pothole there. I'm not sure that we're gonna, maybe we are, maybe there is time to accomplish all of those things. I don't even, but it didn't appear to me that that was of the greatest necessity.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Clerk Scott, would you mind now going back to the folder on the Newton School so that we could compare the condition of the pavement at the Newton School?
I will. It's just going to take me a minute to get there.
Understood. Thank you.
Entrance and parking lot?
Yes, please.
And also, if you could do the sidewalk in front of that school, that would be great. Thank you. Now,
We're looking.
that's the entranceway, and they're huge potholes. I mean, it's hard to look at them in the picture.
That's awful.
Thank you.
That's the far end of it.
You can see it's really not in good shape. And it looks like it's been patched and patched and patched again.
That's the best part.
Did you go out on the windy day?
No, it actually wasn't that windy that day, but things maybe had blown and not gotten picked up yet.
Yes, well, we're all working from home. We can't always pick up sticks. Okay. Was there?
Councilor Wheeler, could she go on to just show the cracking of the walkway there? Not that we're into that, but would that be possible?
I will in just one moment.
I would have no idea how to do it. So,
Walkway. Okay, so almost there, folks.
Take your time.
that's about an inch or an inch and a half lip. This is the sidewalk right in front of the school.
Thank you.
Same.
And these are accessibility concerns, correct? As well as tripping hazards?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we'll, as long as we've looked at Newton School and Federal Street, I think it would only be fair to go back to the Academy of Early Learning and look at the walkway. Councilor DeSorger, do you know if there were pictures of where the walkway?
We have not made a walkway there yet. It would be adding a length of $20,000. We gave $4,000 for sidewalks. And this would be, I believe these are preschool. If they are children with disabilities, my understanding would be that they would be dropped off in a bus. Make a new walkway that was right along the grass, and we don't have that yet, so there are no pictures of it. There's grass.
Yes, okay, right. And we did see a picture of the grassy area from the superintendent when she was here the other night. So just for the purposes of moving this amendment forward, I'll be frank and say that I would not vote in favor of this amendment. However, I would potentially be inclined to vote for it if it included the walkway at North Parish. We have a comment from Councilor Elmer. No?
It wasn't me.
Oh, that was probably half an hour ago. Sometimes I hear a notification and then just my monkey brain starts. Oh, no, it's from Clerk Scott, please.
Excuse me for interrupting. I need a little clarification on the amendment. So the motion currently reads the amount of $203,000 be appropriated for the paving of parking lots for Newton and Federal Street School and the construction of a walkway at North Parish School. Could someone clarify for me, please, what is being amended?
I can.
Proper disorder.
Okay. I'm just doing my math here. 8. 8. So I would make an amendment that we spend $108,000 to do both the walkway at North Parish School and the paving of the parking lot at Newton School. The two together would add up to $108,000.
103.
Is it a,
Yeah, I have 103, Counselor.
okay.
103.
So for purpose of process, Counselor DeSorger, would you withdraw your prior amendment, and I will withdraw my prior second? I think, would you say yes if you're, I thought I saw.
withdraw my amendment.
So the prior amendment is withdrawn, and now, just so we're very clear, would you mind reading it one more time, the amendment? Or I will read it if you wish.
That would be great.
All right, and please correct me if I am misspeak in any way, but Councilor DeSorger has moved to amend the article to strike the sum of $203,000 to be replaced by the sum of $103,000, and to strike the words Federal Street School. Is there a second? I will second. So the motion has been made by Councilor DeSorger and seconded by Councilor Wheeler. Is there discussion on the motion as amended, which, just to clarify, removes the Federal Street School from the project, paving from the project? Any discussion?
Councilor Wheeler? So the
Yes, Clerk
motion
Scott.
would read, sum of $103,000 be appropriated to pave the parking lot at Newton Street School and construct a walkway at North Parish School?
Yes, that's correct, except I believe Newton doesn't have a street in the title.
Thank you.
And then later on, it would continue to say, ... is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $103,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I support, I understand the need for keeping things up, for maintaining everything as much as possible. But I support Councilor DeSorger's motion here to make a kind of strategic cut where we can. It doesn't mean that we would put this off forever, but it means that that some of us don't think that now is the time to repave at Federal Street. Any further discussion on that, on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amendment before voting on the final motion. So all those in favor of amending it from $203,000 to $103,000, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. So the motion to amend has passed. Thank you, Councilor DeSorger, for putting that forward. Is there any further discussion on the motion as a whole? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. So that was a positive recommendation to pave the parking lot at Newton School and construct a walkway at North Parish School. We will now move on to page 78. I move that the sum of $20,500 be appropriated for painting at North Parish School, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $20,500 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Councilor Bottomley. Is there discussion on school painting at North Parish? Councilor DeSorger.
This was one of the things that went along with the windows, not that we're on the windows at this point, but it would be removing the wood around the windows and repainting them, those 3 windows that I could find. And when we had our discussion just a couple of nights ago, this was one of the things that if there was something that needed to be not done, the superintendent agreed with that. And so I couldn't imagine how that would cost $20,500. But at any rate, I would not, I'm not in favor of that.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. And I would point out that, as Councilor DeSorger alluded to, this is somewhat of a sister project to the windows capital item at North Parish, which is coming up. From my standpoint, I would say I think the cost has at least something to do with the amount of scraping that has to be done. And I can certainly see using discretion around voting for this item, but I support it as not merely an aesthetic issue, but also an issue of maintaining the property, and that painting will help the sills and the windows and the building to stay in good shape. Any further discussion on painting at North Parish?
I
Order.
saw the windows that needed to be scraped and painted, and there were 3 of them. So I cannot support that. They go together. The windows and the painting go together. I just can't support that.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Any further discussion on school painting? Councilor Elmer.
If I could ask Councilor DeSorger to clarify, she's saying that she's against it because it's too much money for 3 windows. Is that the point?
No, one of the things the superintendent said was that this could wait. The windows and the painting could wait of any of the things. And Councilor Wheeler made a very good amendment on the walkway, because actually that was one of the things that she said was the most needed thing. And one of the things that she said was the least needed was the windows and the painting. And I think this is a year where we have fiscal responsibilities to look at these capital projects. We weren't, we didn't, that's all. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Certainly, individual councilors should use your discretion on this about whether you think it's valid or not. It's very valid to vote either way. Any further discussion on it? Seeing none, all those in favor of school painting at North Parish, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, there was a little delay there, but I believe it was 2 positive, 3 negative, with 0 abstentions. So the motion fails. It is a mixed negative recommendation on school painting at North Parish. I move that it be ordered the sum of $157,500 be appropriated to replace flooring at the middle school and Federal Street School, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $157,500 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, The mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Forgy. And is there discussion? Councilor DeSorder.
So we were just saw one photo of each. Were you able to be in there, Councilor Wheeler? Have you ever seen this, or perhaps the mayor has seen it to be done? I can see that the mayor's online too.
No, I have not had access since the pandemic. It's a health concern. Councilor Forgy.
I came on board when the middle school was built, but we were still bringing a lawsuit against the builders. My sense is that the middle school flooring needs to be replaced because they probably used pretty substandard flooring at the time. And yeah, I mean, and that was a project that was a real mess. And I am going to vote in favor of this because I fought the battle over this one, and I do think that it's probably very legitimate that this flooring needs to be replaced, especially if they're going after stairs.
Thank you for the background, Councilor Forgy. Any further discussion on flooring? Councilor DeSorder.
This will be our we're going to vote on this tonight, and then we have our last budget meeting, so we won't have any time to see that.
That's correct. I would presume that to be correct. However, I know that Chair Prietti and Superintendent Harper have been invited to the annual budget meeting. So if President Stemple will allow it, you may have the opportunity to ask one more question of them. Any further discussion on flooring? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed?
I'm going to be in favor. I will vote in favor of that.
Okay. Opposed? Abstain? Flooring passes unanimously. And now we move on to page 80. The sum of $45,000 be appropriated to replace and repair school fencing. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $45,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purposes of this project. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Second from Councilor DeSorder. Discussion on fencing. Councilor DeSorder.
So there's, I definitely am in favor of the fencing. I've looked all over all of the schools. One side at North Parish is rusted. There's a couple of little holes. Not terrible at Four Corners. But having seen what happened with the other project where the money ran out to do the sidewalk, I am voting in favor of this, and I would strongly ask or strongly urge that they start that it started with North Parish School, because that was in the worst repair. That is not my decision to make, but we could add an urging. Is correct, Councilor Wheeler?
Yes, or we could mention it if the superintendent and the chair are at the meeting on Wednesday. But I concur. Newton School fencing is a big need, and I think the superintendent is aware of that. Councilor Elmer?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think Councilor Disorder misstated it. She wanted them to start at the Newton Street School. Is that right?
I think so.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I went around and looked at the fencing as well, and certainly the need is highest at Newton, and it seems lowest at Four Corners. But I think that my understanding of the process is that it'll go out to bid, and they may be able to fit some just kind of small general maintenance and repairs into Four Corners at the same time. So it's not necessarily adding a lot of expense.
Okay.
Any further discussion on fencing? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. We are getting there. The sum of $100,000. I move that the sum of $100,000 be appropriated to replace windows at North Parish School and to meet said appropriation. The treasurer, with approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $100,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. The mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. Further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second? Second from Councilor Elmer, I believe. Is there discussion? Councilor Elmer and then Disorder.
Well, now I see what Councilor Disorder was getting to, is that the window project and the painting of the windows was $100 and some thousand that the school was willing to give up. They said this didn't have to be done this year. I'm of two minds about sort of nickel and diming this budget, because we may have larger budget issues to deal with later. But I just want to say that now I get what she was saying.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councilor Elmer. Councilor Disorder?
I'm not in favor of that. We didn't actually get the count on the windows, and I saw 3, the big archway one and the 2 round ones, and those 2 projects went together, and where that was told us by the superintendent that we could wait, I can't vote in favor of that.
Thank you, Councilor Disorder. Yeah, it is a rather large cost for a number of windows. My understanding is part of the reason for the cost is the historical nature of the round windows are certainly not something you buy at Home Depot. But I completely understand not supporting an expenditure of this size. Any further discussion on North Parish windows? All those in favor of a positive recommendation, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? And the motion fails. It is a mixed negative recommendation with 1 positive vote and 4 negative.
Where?
Councilor Bottomley, would you be so kind as to read the order on page 82?
Yes, I move that it be ordered the sum of $38,500 be appropriated to replace exterior doors at Newton and North Parish schools and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $38,500 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects.
Second.
Second from Councilor Forgy. Discussion on Newton and North Parish exterior doors. Councilor DeSorger.
I support this. And I would just, I spent a lot of time looking at the doors. I would, again, strongly urge that they start with the Newton School, because you could see where the holes were, where the a little critter could get in. And also the one that needed to be done, there's another big one that needed to be done there that is historic. And I would just hate for them to run out. It goes into the concrete, which would make it more expensive. And I would hate for us to run out for the money there. So, but I am in favor of it.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor DeSorger, and thank you for visiting all of these capital projects. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of positive recommendation for Newton and North Parish exterior doors, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Councilor Elmer, would you mind reading the order on page 84?
Sure. 84. I move that the sum of $185,000 be appropriated for equipment and related costs of GSET expansion and customer installation, and to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $185,000 pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute, and the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation. And further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects.
Second from Councilor Wheeler. Is there discussion? This goes towards the continued expansion of GSET, which is a good investment for the city as far as I'm concerned. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $1 million be appropriated for sewer inflow and infiltration, repairs and replacement. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $1 million pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. The mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal and/or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? Councilor DeSorger.
No, just that I feel that they're very necessary to be done. We're operating under consent order, so I would strongly urge everybody to vote in favor of that.
Thank you for pointing that out, Councilor. Any further discussion on I&I? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $940,000 be appropriated for the dredging of Leyden Glen. And to meet said appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is hereby authorized to borrow said sum of $940,000 pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or any other enabling statute. And the mayor is hereby authorized to apply for, contract for, accept, and expend any federal or state grants available for this project to be used to reduce the within appropriation, and further, the mayor is authorized to take any action necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of these projects. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Councilor. Is there discussion? We heard from Director Warner the other night about the dredging of Leyden Glen. This is a big expenditure, but it saves the city money in the long run. So I support it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $50,000 be transferred from 1627 bond premiums to replace the roof on the Green River pump station. Is there a second?
Second.
From Councilor Forgy. Is there discussion? Councilor DeSorger.
I'm definitely in favor of this after Director Warner was saying how someone put their foot through there. It sounded like that definitely needed to be done.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor DeSorger. Any further discussion? Okay. And just to clarify, just reading further down, the bond premium balance does have plenty of money in it for this appropriation. So all those in favor of the Green River pump station roof, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. And where are we? I move that it be ordered that the sum of $45,000 be appropriated for the Millbrook well reconditioning, and to meet said appropriation, $45,000 be transferred from water retained earnings. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Second, Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? This is, part of the regular maintenance of our various wells, and it comes out of water retained earnings. So presumably, it's a good investment in the long run. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously.
Councilor Wheeler?
Yes, was that Councilor Forgy?
It is. Did we miss one under the sewer fund? The Phase 2 sanitary sewer evaluation study for $215,000?
I believe we did. Would you be so kind as to read it and to refer
Oh,
to what
gosh.
page number we're on?
If you give me a minute to find the page number, do you know what that is? Anybody?
I don't actually. I'm gonna.
Okay,
I'm gonna
wait
go
a
back
minute. I have to
see.
go this way. Okay. Hang
Yeah.
on. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, please. A minute. Let's just see here. Road treatment truck. No, we're going this way. I see. Oh, sorry about this.
No, it's not your problem. It may not be.
Councilman Wheeler?
I
Yes,
don't,
Councilor Elmer.
I did a word search for sewer and I didn't find it except for
right, I don't think
except for
it's
the
here.
pumps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Millbrook Well, let's see, pump station roof, dredging. Let me see. Oh, here, wait a minute. That's $1 million. Okay, the next order. Oh, it's not here.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not finding it on the agenda. Mayor Wiedegartner, would you speak to this?
I'm trying to figure out what it is that you're looking for, the written order, the INI.
It's actually the phase 2 sanitary sewer evaluation study.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
it was
Yeah.
originally recommended at 215, and I think Marlo actually recommended it for 180. That's what my notes say anyway. And
Then I think you're going to have to let Marlo talk,
okay,
because I don't recall that. I recall the study and why we need it, but I don't recall the amendment to it.
yeah, where it's at. Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Director Warner, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
Yes, originally
Have
this
you
one
been
on the,
following the
yes. So originally this one on the capital schedule for 215 as phase 2 SSES. And while we were going through the process of repurposing money from the Maplebrook culvert, we also received the new consent order that had added sub-basins to be evaluated. So I think I had said that this would be the phase 3, but it's 180,000, not 215 from the original phase 2, if that makes sense. If it was taken off, I would probably be back mid to late summer, early fall for the 180 in order to have the evaluation done.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Director Warner. I remembered I did have the number 180 in my notes. So we did talk about this earlier in the process. Clerk Scott, would you be able to speak to whether you have any insight to offer, or maybe Director Gilman? I don't know if Director Gilman's on the line. I just want to know how we should move forward if, in fact, this is on the Wednesday night agenda. I guess that would be our first question.
I'm looking as we speak, Otis.
Thank you.
Director Gilman is on the line. She's muted. If Kathy could unmute her, she might be able to help you.
I will do my best. I'm unmuting the two people that I see as
I actually need Cassie's help with this because at one point, I believe the financial order was submitted for 215, but at one point, I do believe, and it could have been committee chairs, I'm not sure, but maybe Kathy could check that possibly it was said that it wasn't needed before. That's the only thing I can think of why it wouldn't be on here, because an order was submitted for 215.
So I am looking to see, I see that it was submitted, but I also see that it is not here. I'm looking a little bit further. Hold on just a second, folks. 215, it was not published. So now I'm going to go back to committee chairs. Liz, it sounds like you remember it correctly, but I'm going to go back and look at the March and April committee minutes. So that might just take me a minute to review.
We're looking. I did check the budget meeting agenda and it's not on there. So Director Gilman, I have a question for you. If we see a need for this project to put it before council in, say, I guess June, in terms of bonding and I know it's somewhat irregular. Normally we try to.
Yeah, I have a hard time because you're cutting in and out, and I can't quite follow what you're saying.
I'll try to. Yeah, I could see maybe you're cutting out now for me. So I'll try to repeat the question, which was just that. Well, this may actually just be a matter for committee chairs at this point, or for the mayor's office and Director Gilman to get back to us, because if it's not on the annual budget meeting, there's nothing for us to do there, and there's no recommendation for Ways and Means to make at the moment. And certainly Director Warner could come back with the request at a later date, but certainly I would see an advantage in doing that sooner than later. Further discussion from anyone on that item? All right, seeing none. Councilor Elmer.
I was just going to ask Councilor Forgy how she spotted that.
Oh, well, because I work off a number of different pieces, and this was on the mayor's budget book on page 170. And that's where the figure came in. So, and we kind of skipped over it. So here we go.
Well, thank you for noticing it, Councilor Forgy. Apparently there are advantages to working off of a number of different. I usually feel overwhelmed by the number of pieces of paper in front of me.
So I'm sorry to say that I'm not able to find anything specific, but I will look tomorrow. But I can tell you that it was not on public hearing notice, so it would need to come up at another time. But I can get to the bottom of it tomorrow.
Thank you. We appreciate it. So I will now read what is hopefully the final order. I move, let's see, this one is actually worded differently. So we're on the last page of the agenda. It's page 96 in the agenda packet. An order to authorize fire engine rescue truck lease purchase. Whereas the fire department has a need to procure a combination fire engine rescue truck, and the mayor has proposed a cost-effective lease purchase financing arrangement, the term of which shall be related to the useful life of the equipment to be purchased, I move that it be ordered that the sum of $710,000 shall be authorized for the purchase of a combination fire engine rescue truck and all necessary equipment therefore. That to meet such authorization, the mayor is authorized to enter into a lease purchase agreement, the agreement, for a term not to exceed 14 years, with the annual lease payments to be paid subject to appropriation from the fire department operating budget, and that such agreement shall be subject to approval as to form by the city's legal counsel. Further, that the mayor and other officers, jointly and severally, are hereby authorized to take any and all actions and to execute and deliver the agreement and any other documents and certificates which may be necessary or advisable in order to carry out, give effect to, and comply with the terms of the agreement. Is there a second?
Second, 4G.
From Counselor Forgy. Is there discussion? So this is somewhat different from the orders that we normally see, because but it's a creative solution to a problem that's been here for many years. But I want to start by just checking with Director Gilman that I read that correctly, and that all the authorizes are where they should be, and that there's no words that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, so what Counselor Wheeler is referring to is the original had appropriated in it twice, and we aren't appropriating it. This is just one of those leases that goes longer than 3 years, so it needs council's authorization. So that's what this is accomplishing, just saying that you approve that we enter into a long-term lease in order to do this creative purchasing of a combination fire engine rescue truck. So we had done 2 prior orders, one to pay off the old lease with stabilization. And so now we're going to enter into a lease that will be paid out of the fire department operating budget from that existing lease line. I just want to make sure everyone understands that, because it is complicated, but it was a way to get 2 for 1, basically. Two of the fire department's needs be addressed with one purchase. And it happens to be that this requires a lease that goes longer than 3 years. So that's why there's an additional order. Anyway, I think you did pretty well on the appropriation authorization.
Okay. Thank you, Director Gilman. Not in a nefarious way, but in a way that really gets us to a place that we needed to get to. I think the fire department has made a small sacrifice as well, because the lease is coming out of their operating budget, which is not totally unusual. As you'll recall, the police have their cruisers within their operating budget. So, any discussion on the fire engine rescue truck? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Abstain? Counselor DeSorger, I was not able to see your hand for whatever reason, the video. Did you vote positive?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. The fire engine rescue truck passes with a unanimous positive recommendation.
Counselor Wheeler,
Clerk Scott.
I found a note from the March 3rd, 2020 committee chair meeting about the appropriation of $215 for the Phase 2 sanitary sewer evaluation study. And the minutes say, Vice President Wheeler noted that the appropriation was not necessary this year per the DPW director, and would be removed from the agenda and could be resubmitted next year.
Thank you, Clerk Scott. Let's hope I knew what I was talking about.
That was way back when we actually could meet and see each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I must have had some basis for saying that, but if I turn out to be incorrect, well, Director Warner, you can blame me and ask us for another order. That's all there is to it. Thank you, everyone. It's been a long 3 hours, but we got to the end of it. Counselor Forgy, do you have a comment?
Do we need to adjust our sewer fund capital to $1 million? We're leaving that 215 out.
Because let me see, because of the way that we vote on the funds, I don't believe we need to take a vote on that.
Okay, that's
But
perfectly fine.
anyone correct me if I'm wrong there. Okay, is there any further business?
I think Director Gilman wanted to correct you.
No, I did not want to correct.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
I just
Well, fake news.
everyone's talked enough for one day.
I was thinking I really wanted to just hang out a little bit more, so I thought I'd create an excuse.
Well, if you could ask, if you could get us to the point where we could go to a bar, that would be excellent. But
I'm working on it, believe me.
Oh, and thank you for all you're all doing.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Sure enough. Thank you guys. Big time.
You're welcome. Our next.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Wheeler, for keeping everybody on the right path.
I try. Our next meeting is Wednesday, May 20th. So that's our next Ways and Means meeting at 6 p.m. Via, I'm almost certain, via WebEx. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I hear a second.
Second.
Oh, sorry, there's a delay here. A motion to adjourn from Councilor Elmer, second from Councilor Forgy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.
Councilor Elmer,
Yes.
Councilor Elmer, hang on a second, and I can